They displayed her in chains for all to touch. Then she whispered, "I belong with you." The air in the alien marketplace was thick with heat and the smell of burning spice. The red sun above bled light into every corner, making shadows sharp and faces strange. Hundreds of voices clashed in the air, traders shouting, slaves crying, guards barking orders in languages no human could fully understand. Commander Elias Vorn walked with steady steps through the crowd. He had been here many times, in this place where morality was worth less than a grain of dust. He came for spare parts for his ship. He did not come for trouble, but trouble found him at the far end of the market. Under bright white spotlights, a wooden stage stood. On it, chained by the wrists and ankles, was a girl. A human girl. The sight made Elias slow down. Her skin was pale, almost gray from exhaustion. Bruises bloomed on her arms and neck. Her hair hung over her face, hiding her eyes. Around her neck was a heavy iron collar with a glowing lock. A sign was fixed to the stage, "Pleasure animal, for sale." The crowd laughed and shouted. Alien buyers, tall, scaled, winged, or monstrous, called out bids in rough voices. Some licked their lips. Others whispered about how rare human females were, how valuable. Elias turned away. This was not his fight. Not here, not today. Then. He heard it, so soft he almost missed it. "Take me home." He froze. The voice was fragile, broken, but human. He turned back. Through the curtain of hair, she looked at him. Her eyes were not dead after all. They were alive. And they were staring straight into his. The auctioneer, a fat alien with 4 arms and teeth like knives, barked in a loud voice, 50,000 credits, do I hear 60? A massive green-skinned beast in the front row grunted, raising the bid. The crowd roared approval. Elias stood there, his heart pounding. Buying her meant putting himself in the crosshairs of the syndicate, the rulers of this black market sector. If he took her away, they would come for him. They always came for stolen property. Still, that look in her eyes. It was not just fear, it was defiance. "Don't walk away," she whispered again, barely moving her lips. "If you do, I will disappear forever." He didn't know why he believed her. But he did. 70,000 credits. The auctioneer shouted, pointing to a cloaked figure in the back. "Going once, 100,000. Elias said. The crowd went silent. The auctioneer blinked, his greed rising like a storm. 100,000 from the human trader. "Any more?" 100 and 150. The green beast growled. Elias's jaw tightened. This was stupid. This was dangerous. This was suicidal. 200,000, he said, his voice calm. Gasps rippled through the audience. No one raised the bid. The beast snarled but didn't move. Sold. The auctioneer slammed the hammer. To the human. The crowd murmured. Some were amused. Others, angry. Syndicate guards in black armor eyed Elias as he walked to the stage. The girl did not smile. She only stared at him as the guards unlocked her chains. When she stepped down, her knees almost gave way, but she kept her head high. The collar remained. The auctioneer claimed it was part of the deal. Elias placed a steadying hand on her arm, guiding her through the crowd. Every step felt like walking with a target on his back. "Don't talk," he whispered. "I wasn't going to," she said, voice low. Then she added, "Don't trust anyone here, not even me." He glanced at her, but her face gave nothing. Away, they reached the docking bay, the smell of fuel and metal replacing the stench of the market. His ship, the Wayfarer, waited, small but fast. The ramp lowered with a hiss as they boarded. Elias's ship sensors beeped. A red light flashed on the control screen. Incoming scan detected. Tracking signal locked. He cursed under his breath. Someone was already following them. The girl sat quietly in the co-pilot seat, eyes fixed on the stars ahead. "They will not let you keep me," she said softly. I paid for you, he replied. She turned her head and met his eyes. No, Commander. You didn't buy me. You just joined my fight. Before he could ask what she meant, the tracking alarm screamed louder. On the edge of the radar, a stealth ship appeared. Black, sleek, and fast. No markings, no ID, just a predator in the dark. Elias tightened his grip on the controls. Hold. On, he muttered. The girl didn't move. She only whispered, It begins. The stealth ship stayed on their tail, a black shadow against the deep stars. Elias kept his eyes on the radar while his hands danced over the controls. The Wayfarer was fast, but the hunter behind them was built for killing. The girl sat in silence, her thin fingers gripping the armrest. She didn't look afraid. She looked calculating. They won't attack here, she finally said. Not in open trade space. You sound sure, Elias replied without looking at her. They paid too much for me to die, she said. They'll wait until we're alone. Her calmness made him uneasy. Most people begged for help in moments like this. She was planning ahead, as if she'd done this before. The stealth ship kept following until the Wayfarer jumped into hyperspace. The hum of the engines filled the cockpit, but the tension didn't fade. Elias glanced at her. You have a name? She hesitated. Myra. Where are you from, Mira? Her lips twitched into something close to a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Nowhere you'd find on a map. He waited for more, but she stayed quiet, staring into the blue swirl of hyperspace. When they dropped out of hyperspace hours later, Elias headed for a quiet fuel station on the edge of a dead moon. The place was nothing but metal platforms, rusting fuel tanks, and a few broken lights. Perfect for hiding. As they docked, Mira stood. We shouldn't stay long. You think I don't know that? She ignored the bite in his tone, stepping down the ramp into the cold air. Her gaze swept over the shadows between storage crates. They're here. Elias followed her eyes, nothing but darkness. Then, movement. 3 figures stepped out. Syndicate colors on their armor. One carried a shock baton, the other 2 heavy rifles. The leader grinned, showing metal teeth. Commander Vorn. You have something that doesn't belong to you. Elias's hand hovered near his holster. I paid for her. Paid the wrong man, the leader said. The girl's not for private use. She's syndicate property. Before Elias could answer, Mira spoke, her voice steady. Tell your masters they should have kept me locked tighter. The leader's grin faded. Shut her up, the first guard lunged. In a blink, Mira moved faster than human eyes could follow. She caught his arm, twisted, and dropped him to the ground. The shock baton rolled away. The other 2 opened fire, but Mira darted aside with unnatural speed, disappearing into the shadows like a ghost. Elias fired twice, hitting one in the shoulder, forcing him to drop the rifle. The last man aimed for Elias's chest, but then Mira was there. Her hand clamped on his weapon, yanking it free. She hit him hard enough to send him crashing into a crate. She handed the rifle to Elias without looking at him. We need to leave. Back on the ship, Elias threw the rifle onto the floor. You want to tell me how you did that? Mira sat in the co-pilot seat, breathing evenly. You already know I'm not normal. You moved like... He stopped himself. Like something not human. Her eyes met his. That's because I'm not entirely human. Elias stared at her. You'd better explain. I can't. She said simply. Not yet. Not good enough. She leaned closer, her voice low. If you know too soon, you'll throw me out of your ship, and then you'll die. Before Elias could speak, the radar beeped again. The stealth ship was back, dropping out of hyperspace right behind them. Mira's voice was almost a whisper. They will not stop, not until they have me. Elias gritted his teeth, pulling the ship into a sharp turn. Then they'll have to catch us, but Myra didn't look relieved. She looked at him with something like pity. They will, she said. And when they do, You'll wish you had left me on that stage. The stealth ship's shadow grew larger on the radar. It wasn't firing, just following. Like a predator that knew its prey was already trapped. Elias pushed the Wayfarer to its limits, engines screaming. But the black ship matched every move. Mira sat in the co-pilot's seat, her face calm, almost too calm. She leaned forward, watching the radar with unblinking eyes. They're calling for backup, she said softly. You can hear them? Elias asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she pressed a few buttons on the comms panel without permission. Static filled the speakers. Then a deep alien voice came through, speaking in a harsh, guttural language. Elias didn't understand a word. Mira did. Turn around, she said into the mic in that same alien tongue, her voice cold. Or your captain's heart will stop before his next breath. The silence that followed was heavy. Then, the stealth ship broke off and vanished into hyperspace. Elias stared at her. What the hell was that? I told them to leave, she said simply. That's not an answer. She looked at him, her eyes sharper now. If I tell you the truth, you will start thinking of me as a weapon instead of a person. That's what they want. He didn't like the way she said they. You're saying the syndicate? The syndicate. And others, she replied. Hours later, the Wayfarer drifted in the quiet between stars. No hunters on the radar, no signals. Just silence. Elias brought out a small first aid kit. Show me your arms. Mira frowned but obeyed. When she rolled up her sleeves, Elias saw the scars again, deep, round marks along her forearms and up toward her shoulders, not like whip scars. Too precise, too surgical. These aren't from chains, Elias said. What are they? She didn't flinch. Ports. Ports for what? For control. Elias's hand stilled. Control? They used machines, she explained, voice low, to rewrite my mind, my reflexes, my instincts, to make me something better than human. Something faster, stronger, obedient. Elias felt a cold knot in his stomach. You're saying you're enhanced? Mira's gaze drifted to the stars outside the viewport. No, I'm saying I was made to be someone's property. A long silence filled the cockpit. Elias wanted to ask more, but the way she was staring out there, like she was looking for something only she could see, stopped him. Finally, she said, I wasn't born in the syndicate. I was taken from a human colony, sold to a scientist. He rebuilt me. Why? Her eyes met his, and for the first time, there was real fear in them. Because I'm a key to something they want. Something they can't find without me. Elias leaned forward. And what's that? She shook her head. If I tell you, you'll be hunted too. Worse than now. Elias gave a dry laugh. We're already hunted. Before she could answer, alarms screamed across the cockpit. Elias checked the radar, but there was no ship. No enemy. Just a strange pulsing red signal. Mira's face went pale. It's a beacon. They activated the failsafe. What does that mean? It means. She stood quickly, moving to the back of the ship. They know exactly where we are, and every hunter within 10 systems is now on their way. How much time do we have? She stopped, turning to him with a grim look. Enough for me to tell you one thing. Elias crossed his arms. Go ahead. Mira stepped closer, her voice quiet but sharp. If they take me again, they'll make me kill you. The hum of the engine suddenly felt too loud. Elias didn't speak. Mira turned away, heading for the weapons locker. If I ever turn on you, Commander, don't hesitate. Meaning? She looked over her shoulder, her eyes dark. Kill me before I stop you. The beacon kept pulsing on the radar like a heartbeat, each red flash a countdown to disaster. Elias slammed his hand on the console. Can you shut it off? Mira was already at the engineering panel, her fingers moving with mechanical precision. No, it's not just on me. It's in me. In you? Elias demanded. She didn't look up. Under my skin, near the spine. They can hear every word we say if they want to. Elias cursed under his breath. So they know we're talking. About them right now. They always know, she said, voice flat. Outside the viewport, hyperspace peeled away into real space. A jagged asteroid field stretched before them, lit by a dim, dying sun. The ship dropped in with a violent shudder. Elias frowned. Why? Here, they won't fire heavy weapons in an asteroid field, Mira explained. Too much chance of hitting something that could explode. You sound like you've done this before. She glanced at him with the faintest hint of a smile. I've escaped before. The smile vanished when the first syndicate ship arrived. A gunship, black and red, slid from hyperspace, its hull bristling with cannons. Two smaller fighter escorts darted around it like hungry insects. Mira moved to the weapons console. I'll take the turrets. You even know how? She had already powered them up. The fighters struck first, lasers slicing through the darkness. Elias threw the Wayfarer into a tight roll between two massive rocks. The ship's hull groaned. Metal screaming under the stress. Myra fired. A sharp burst lit the cockpit as one fighter exploded into burning fragments. The second fighter swung wide, trying to flank them, but Elias dove lower, skimming the surface of a spinning asteroid. The gunship roared closer, its heavy cannons thundering. They're hurting us. Elias muttered. Double quotes yes, Myra said, her voice calm. Into the kill zone. The kill zone appeared ahead, an open pocket in the asteroid field. A perfect trap. 3 more syndicate ships dropped in, blocking the only way out. Mira's eyes narrowed. They brought more than I expected. Good, Elias said through clenched teeth. Means they're afraid. She looked at him, almost surprised. The comms crackled. A deep voice filled the cockpit. Commander Vorn, return the girl, and your death will be quick. Elias tapped the comm switch. You'll have to take her, the voice chuckled. That is the plan. The gunship moved in, engines glowing like molten fire. All around them, the other ships closed the circle. Elias, Mira said quietly, if we don't break through now, they'll board us. Boarding's not an option, then trust me. Before he could ask what she meant, Mira left the cockpit. A moment later, the ship's side hatch opened in the middle of an asteroid field. Warning alarm screamed. Elias shouted, Mira, what the hell are you? A flash outside. Mira had leapt from the ship, using a thruster pack from the storage bay. She shot across the void toward the nearest syndicate fighter, from the cockpit. Elias watched her land on the fighter's hull like a predator. Sparks erupted as she tore into its panels with her bare hands. The fighter spun out of control and smashed into the gunship's side, exploding in a blinding flare. The comms filled with syndicate shouting. The formation broke for just a second, but that was enough. Elias slammed the throttle forward. The Wayfarer blasted through the gap, weaving between rocks as debris from the explosion rained around them. Minutes later, they were clear of the field. Elias scanned for pursuit. Nothing. Just empty space. The hatch opened again. Mira stepped back inside, helmet under her arm, breathing hard but smiling faintly. Told you I've escaped before. Elias stared at her, part amazed, part unsettled. You're insane. She walked past him toward the back of the ship. No, I'm dangerous. Elias knew she was right, and that scared him more than the syndicate ever could. 3 days passed without any sign of syndicate ships. The Wayfarer drifted through the quiet dark, her engines running low to stay hidden. But the silence didn't bring peace. Elias kept catching Mira watching the doors, the shadows, the radar. She moved like a soldier in enemy territory, because to her, every star was enemy territory. We need supplies, Elias finally said. There's a refueling station at Caro's Belt. Old friend of mine runs it. Mira didn't look convinced. And you trust him? I've known Joran for 15 years, fought beside him. Saved his life twice. Her eyes stayed cold. Then, it's your turn to see if he'll save yours. Caro's belt appeared ahead, a cluster of mining stations strung together like broken pearls. The main platform spun slowly, its lights flickering. Elias guided the ship to Dock 6. Joren was waiting on the platform, a tall man with a weathered face and an easy smile. Elias Vorn, by the suns you still look like hell. Elias grinned, clasping his hand. Good to see you too. Joran's eyes slid past Elias to Mira, and something flickered there. Curiosity, and maybe greed. And who's this? She's with me, Elias said quickly. Don't ask questions, Joran chuckled. Wouldn't dream of it. Inside the station, the smell of oil and metal filled the air. They sat in Joran's office, sharing drinks while droids loaded fuel into the Wayfarer. You're in Syndicate space, Joran said casually. Not safe for humans, especially not ones carrying delicate cargo. Elias's hand tightened. On his cup, she's not cargo. Joran's smile didn't reach his eyes. Of course not. Mira hadn't touched her drink. She was staring at the door, the vents, the shadows, her voice low. We shouldn't stay long. Relax. Elias's Joran solid. But Mira's instincts were sharper than his trust. When Elias went to inspect the fuel lines, she slipped into the maintenance corridor. That's when she heard it, Joran's voice, low and urgent, speaking into a comm device. Yes, I have her. She's here now. Tell the Syndicate to double the payment. No, she doesn't suspect yet. The idiot brought her right to me. Mira's hands curled into fists. She returned to the docking bay, calm on the outside. Elias joined her a moment later, oblivious. Fuel's almost done. Another hour and we're gone. Make it 30 minutes, she said. He frowned. Why? Before she could answer, the bay doors slammed shut. The lights turned red. Heavy footsteps echoed from all sides. Syndicate guards poured in, rifles raised, and behind them, Joren. His smile was gone. Sorry, Elias, business is business. Elias's hand went to his blaster. You sold me out. Not you, Joran said, nodding toward Mira. Her. The guards moved in. Mira didn't step back. Her voice was like ice. You think giving me to them will make you rich, but you won't live to spend it. Joran laughed. Bold words from property. Mira's eyes darkened. Property doesn't do this. She moved, too fast to follow, disarming the nearest guard and firing his weapon in a single motion. The shot dropped two more before they could react. Elias joined in, blaster bolts lighting the bay. Chaos erupted. Guards shouted, crates exploded, the air filled with smoke and sparks. Joran tried to run, but Mira was faster. She caught him by the collar, slamming him into the wall. You told them I was here. You told them my location. His eyes widened in fear. It was just business. It was a death sentence. She cut him off. For you. She let him drop to the floor, unconscious, and turned to Elias. We need to go, now. Minutes later, the Wayfarer blasted away from Caro's belt, Syndicate ships scrambling behind them. Elias sat in the pilot's seat, jaw tight. You knew, he said. I always know, she replied quietly. Trust is a luxury I can't afford. Elias glanced at her. You don't trust me either, do you? Her gaze stayed fixed on the stars. Not yet. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, but Elias could feel the Syndicate's shadow behind them. They had escaped Caro's belt, but not the hunt. In the cockpit, Mira sat silently, watching the navigation screen as if it might betray them. Her posture was still, but her eyes were calculating every route, every escape, every possible betrayal. Finally, Elias broke the silence. We can't keep running without a plan. We do have a plan, she said softly. You just don't know it yet. Elias leaned back in his chair. Then tell me. She turned toward him, her expression unreadable. You asked where I'm from. The truth is, I don't have a home planet anymore. What do you mean? It was hidden, she said. A human colony, deep in dark space. We stayed off every chart, every trade route, so the syndicate wouldn't find us. For years, it worked. Then they came. Her voice stayed calm, but her hands clenched in her lap. They didn't come to destroy us. They came to take. They wanted someone who could bridge the gap between human and alien biology. Someone who could move in both worlds. Elias's jaw tightened. And they chose you. They made me, she corrected. They rewrote my body, changed my blood, gave me abilities to survive anywhere, and something else. She stood, moving to the center of the cockpit. I'm a key, Elias. Not to a vault, not to a weapon. To a location, Elias frowned. What location? Her gaze locked on his. The hidden fleet. What's left of my people? They scattered after the attack, hiding in the deep. I'm the only one who knows the signal that can bring them together again. And the syndicate wants that signal. They want to follow it, she said. They'll track it back to the fleet. And when they find them, it'll be over. Elias shook his head. Then why not hide forever? Mira's voice was sharp now. Because they're running out of time. Our fleet is low on supplies, ships failing. If I don't reach them soon, they'll die anyway. The difference is, if the syndicate reaches them first, they won't just die, they'll be taken. Like me, the weight of her words hung heavy. In the air. Elias finally asked, and where's this fleet? Her lips pressed into a thin line. I can't say it out loud. The beacon in me could transmit it. But I can show you. She knelt near the console, pulling a thin silver shard from the inside of her boot. Some kind of alien data crystal. This will guide us, but once I put it in, the syndicate will know exactly where we're going. They'll send everything. Elias studied her. If we do this, we won't be running anymore. We'll be fighting. She gave a faint, humorless smile. You've been fighting since the moment you looked at me on that auction stage. Before Elias could answer, the ships. Warning lights flared red. Radar filled with contacts. A massive warship, flanked by 2 cruisers, dropping from hyperspace right in front of them. Mira's voice was steady. That's not a hunting party. That's an execution squad. Elias's hand hovered over the throttle. We can try to run. No, she said, sliding the data crystal into the console. We go through them. The ship's systems hummed, navigation recalculating instantly. A star chart lit up on the screen, a point deep. In uncharted space blinking bright, Mira's voice was almost a whisper. That's home. The syndicate warship's comms crackled, a cold voice filling the cockpit. Return the girl, Commander. This is your final chance. Elias looked at her. We'll never make it past them. Myra's eyes gleamed. That's why I'm here. She strapped herself in, her voice calm, almost daring. Push the engines until they scream. Elias smirked faintly. That's my specialty. The Wayfarer roared forward, heading straight toward the syndicate blockade. The warship's cannons lit up the void. Mira reached into her seat harness and pulled out something Elias had never seen before, a slender alien device, its surface alive with blue light. What is that? Elias asked. The other thing they built into me, she said. You'll see. The Wayfarer tore through the void, a streak of light heading straight toward the syndicate blockade. The warship loomed ahead, a mountain of metal bristling with weapons, flanked by 2 cruisers tightening the trap. Elias kept the throttle pinned. The ship's engines howled, their heat warnings screaming red. If they hit us head-on, we're dust. They won't, Mira said, holding the glowing alien device in her hands. Because I'm going to make them blind. The first volley came. Blazing plasma bolts cut through the darkness, close enough to rattle the hull. Mira tapped the device to the console. It hummed with a sharp, electric pulse. Suddenly, the targeting locks on the radar flickered, then vanished. The warship's guns went silent. Elias blinked. "You scrambled their systems?" "Not just theirs," Mira said, her voice tight. "Every syndicate ship within 1,000 kilometers just went blind. The gap between them and the blockade closed fast. But the cruisers weren't out of the fight. They shifted to manual targeting, unleashing blind, wide-range fire." Elias threw the Wayfarer into a wild spiral between two bursts of plasma, the heat shields flaring. "We're not going to dodge all of it." "Then don't," Mira said. "Aim for the smallest gap between them. Trust me." The gap was nothing but swirling debris and the edge of the warship's shields. But Elias had made impossible runs before. He gritted his teeth, banking the ship hard. The Wayfarer screamed through the opening, sparks flying as the shield scraped the hull. They were through. The warship spun to pursue, but the device in Mira's hands pulsed again. The Syndicate's own engines stuttered, their formation collapsing in chaos. Elias hit the hyperspace drive. The stars stretched into white lines. Only when the quiet hum of hyperspace surrounded them did Mira speak again. "We have 12 hours before they recover." Elias glanced at her. "Enough to get to your fleet?" "Yes," she said softly. "If they're still there." 12 hours later, they dropped out of hyperspace into darkness. At first, Elias saw nothing. Just empty space. Then faint at the edge of sight, lights appeared. Dozens, hundreds. Until the shadows parted to reveal them. Ships, old freighters, patched warships, cargo haulers turned into living spaces, all drifting together in a loose formation. The hidden human fleet. As they approached, comm signals flared to life. Human. Voices, some choked with disbelief. "Mira, is that you?" "It's her. She's alive." The docking bay of the largest ship opened wide, a beacon of warm light in the cold dark. Mira stood at the ramp as they landed. For the first time, Elias saw her shoulders relax. She stepped down, and hands reached out to pull her into embraces. Tears and laughter mixing in the air. She turned back to Elias, her eyes bright. "I told you, take me home." Elias stepped down after her, but stayed by the ship. "I guess this is where we part ways." Mira shook her head. "No, this is where you decide." "Decide what?" "If you want to fight for something bigger." "Then yourself," she said, "because the Syndicate will come. And when they do, we'll need you." Elias glanced at the stars beyond the hangar, the direction the enemy would come from. He knew she was right. As the bay doors closed, sealing the fleet inside, Elias looked back at Mira. "I'll stay. For now." Her smile was small, but real. Good. Home was worth fighting for. In the distance, far beyond the fleet's sensors, Syndicate ships regrouped, following the trail. The hunt wasn't over. It had only just begun.